WLOX presents the Friday Night Football Showdown Halftime Update.
Proudly sponsored by B&L Orthopedic Specialists and Pawpaw's Campers and Cars.
And hello and welcome in everybody to the Friday Night Football Showdown Halftime Update. I am your host, Dylan Jones, and tonight we'll be going across all high school football games across the Gulf Coast and giving you all of the latest updates. And you can get those updates if you head on over to WLOX.com. You can also find this website on our app as well. I'll make sure to give you a quick guide through on how to get there. If you type in WLOX.com in your URL bar here, head over to the hamburger menu. You will find the sports tab. Click the arrow, and you'll then be able to navigate your way to the scoreboard. And here are all of the latest scores. You'll make sure to check those out on your own after we get done here. But now we will start things off in Rankin County as the Hancock Hawks hit the road looking to bust a three-game losing streak. They faced the 2-1 Florence Eagles, who are fresh off of a bye week. These teams have played just once before, with Hancock taking a nail-biting 22-20 victory just last year. And starting this one off, Florence strikes first with a short touchdown run on the first possession of the game. They'd rip off a 55-yard play-action pass for another score on their next drive. The Hawks finally get on the board themselves in the second quarter and making the score 14-7. They go into halftime with that score. Now, this game, believe it or not, I believe this is actually going to be in the third quarter. Let's give it a quick refresh here. Yeah, so this one, if the third quarter hasn't started yet, then they're very close. They're probably teeing off right now. But Florence, they lead it 14-7 at halftime. Close one thus far. Now, moving over to Forest County, the Picayune Maroon Tide are feeling good after taking a close win over Ocean Springs last week. They visit the Petal Panthers, who have just one loss so far this season, and that loss was to the undefeated Hattiesburg Tigers. This is the first meeting in a decade between these teams. Darrell Smith and the Tide take the first score of the game in the second quarter after a 10-minute drive melts away the majority of the first quarter, really. And Petal answers with a 29-yard touchdown of their own, converts the PAT to take a 7-6 lead. Picayune scores again, makes the PAT this time to make it 13-7. Now, somebody to really highlight in this game is Picayune running back Darrell Smith. He is the only running back on the coast with over 1,000 rushing yards. And let me tell you, if it was easy, then everybody would do it. So Darrell Smith, certainly a special talent. He was selected this week to the South roster for the Bernard Blackwell North-South game. Thus far, he does have over 100 yards and a touchdown through one half, and there's still a second half of football to go there. So Picayune, they do lead it 13-7 at halftime. Now, just 17 minutes west of that game, we see the rematch of an all-time classic from last year. The George County Rebels, they pay a visit to the undefeated Hattiesburg Tigers, and the Rebels are stacked with talent, seeing three of its players selected to the North-South game. They also have quarterback Deuce Knight, who was selected to the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game. He made headlines earlier this week after flipping his commitment from Notre Dame to Auburn. With that being said, a win against the Tigers will be no easy feat. As we just mentioned, they are undefeated so far, and they have a lot of D1 talent themselves. So this defense for the Hattiesburg, they have allowed more than 7 points in just one of their 5 contests. That was against rival Oak Grove. So those three players selected to the North-South game for George County were defensive lineman Tyneek Davis, defensive back Cole Bradley, and wide receiver Bryn Moody. All three of those young men shining so far this season. But, however, with that being said, so far our last update has Hattiesburg up by 2 scores in the second quarter. The Tigers with a 28-14 lead there. So moving on now, we take a quick trip back up Highway 59 to check in with the Long Beach Bearcats. They look to bounce back after getting thumped by Petal last week. They visit the 3-2 South Jones Braves, who are holding their third straight home game tonight. Last year's contest between these two saw fireworks, Long Beach taking a 35-34 win. So a real nail-biter there. Not as close, but certainly pretty close so far in halftime. Long Beach, they do lead it 14-8. So heading back home now, we will check in with the one-loss Gaucher Gators. They're fresh off of a bye week, taking a win over Moss Point. Prior to that, they take on the 3-2 Columbia Wildcats, who took a convincing win over the Gators last year. So right now, tie ball game at halftime, 21-all. Gaucher, we do want to highlight linebacker and long snapper Fred Nicholson, who was also selected to that North-South All-Star game. He has 2 interceptions, 44 tackles this year. And tackles, he's in the top 10 on the coast, and again, they've had their bye week already. A lot of these teams down here have not already. So I think once all of their teams are able to take their byes, you'll certainly see Fred Nicholson kind of launch to the top of that list. Somebody to keep an eye on for sure. So meanwhile, the Stolen Tomcats are searching for their second win this year. They see the St. Stanislaus Rocketchaws, who took a win over Mobile Christian last week. The Rocks have been impressive on their home field this year, going 3-0. However, they are not, I repeat, they are not at home tonight, and they are 0-2 on the road, so that's something they certainly need to figure out. This is Stone's first home game since week 1. So Stone blowing them out of the water right now. Second quarter, 20-0. St. Stanislaus. Still a lot of ball game left. They can still come back here. So we'll see if they can get on the board here before the end of the half. For St. Stanislaus, they do have kicker Evan Knoll, who went viral nationally earlier just last week after making a 61-yarder field goal. From what I understand, broke the state record. So somebody to keep an eye on there. He was also selected to that Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game. Currently committed to Arkansas, but if I can guarantee you, if you make a 61-yard field goal, you can go to school wherever you want to. So props to that young man for sure. Back in Jackson County, the Moss Point Tigers are one of 2 remaining winless teams on the coast. They host the Poplarville Hornets, who were given their first loss last week by West Jones. Very tough team, and the Hornets have been dominating in district games for the last decade. They've gone 43-6 in such games since 2014. The Tigers are looking for their first win over Poplarville since, drum roll please, it's been almost 100 years, 100 since Moss Point beat Poplarville. 1947, fresh out of World War II, is the last time Moss Point beat Poplarville. At halftime, Poplarville, they lead it 14-0. Moss Point, got to update that stat, man. That's a bad one. You don't want that one on your record, I can guarantee. So now, as we move into these next games, you'll see Bay versus Presbyterian, St. Patrick versus Perry Central, and Salem versus Resurrection. I got some pretty crazy stats for that one too coming up. But as you can see, first quarter 0-0 for those. Do not yet have updates for those. We'll look to get those updated as soon as possible. If you have updates for those games, feel free to drop those in the comment section below. So, meanwhile, where are we at? Bay Presbyterian. 1 second here. All right. Now we'll take a look at the Bay Tigers. Their last game saw them drop to PRC. That extends their losing streak to 4 games. They visit the Presbyterian Bobcats, who are hoping to bounce back themselves after dropping their last 2 games. When the 2 teams faced off last year, Bay took a convincing 40-18 win. So Bay, once again, beat this team last year. They need one certainly to bust out of this slump. We'll see if they can get it done, and we'll make sure to get those scores updated as soon as possible. All right, now we check in with Jaquez Alexander Dito and the Pass Christian Pirates. Alexander Dito has been a force out of the backfield this season. He ties PRC's Corday Russell for most rushing touchdowns on the coast with 11. However, they do have their hands full tonight with quarterback Kobe King and the Greene County Wildcats. King ranks top 5 in this state, not just on the coast, in the state, the entire state of Mississippi, in passing yards, touchdowns, and completion rate. He is number 1 in Mississippi in completion rate with a 75% completion rate, and that is extremely hard to do. So somebody to keep an eye out in this game. The Cats score first. The Pirates answer with an Alexander Dito rushing touchdown, bringing his season total to 12. GC snatches the lead back in the second quarter with another score just before the end of the half. Pass Christian gets on the board again. However, seem to be having a hard time with those PATs. Not exactly sure what's going on there, but that does have them down by 2 so far at halftime. Greene County leads at 14-12. So scroll down here, give you a quick insight on these 2 games. Still waiting on an update for those scores. But we will take a look at the St. Patrick Fighting Irish, the coast's second winless team. The Irish have lost 10 straight games spanning back to last season. Tonight, they look to do something they've never done before and beat the Perry Central Bulldogs, who are 14-0 all time against the Irish. So now we will check in with the Coast Lone 1A team, the Resurrection Eagles, who denied the Irish of their first win last week with a 14-13 win. Tonight they face the Salem Wildcats, who set a milestone last week, and it's not really a good one, I got to be honest with you. So Salem, they dropped their game last week. They are now they've lost 50 games in a row. So 50, yes, 50 games. Their last win was in 2019. So Resurrection, that's certainly one. I have to imagine you guys are the favorites here. If you get an upset here, you might want to take a look at some things. So Resurrection, we'll get an update for that score as soon as possible. I can certainly make a guess at what it might look like. But anyhow, we will move on to the D'Iberville Warriors, who are coming off of a bye last week. Their last game saw them fall to Pascagoula. They see the 1-4 Wayne County War Eagles, who have dropped their last 3 games. This is D'Iberville's second home game of the season, and so far this game, I believe, is at halftime. Let's give it a quick refresh here. Let's see. Yeah, so it is at halftime. D'Iberville just blowing them out of the water so far. 35-0. The Warriors are leading it. And we will close things out now. We will check in with the 1-3 Harrison Central Red Rebels. They head out to Meridian to face the Wildcats, who have won 2 straight games via shutout over Callaway and Laurel. These two also played last year, Meridian winning the contest by just 1 point. But with that being said, Harrison Central leading it 17-7. Just last week, Harrison Central had the early lead, allowed Quitman, I believe it was, to come back in that second half. So we'll see if they can hang on here tonight. Now, I'm sure if you were listening to this, you'll notice that not a lot of teams were mentioned, and that is because we have reached the bipocalypse of high school football season. So we get my list out real quick. The following teams are on a bye week: Biloxi, Gulfport, Ocean Springs, St. Martin, West Harrison, PRC, Van Cleve, Pascagoula, and East Central, all on a bye week this week. But without any further ado, that will end it for us here tonight. Make sure to head on over to WLOX.com for all of those latest scores and to stay updated. Make sure to tune in to WLOX on ABC and CBS later tonight for all of the final scores and highlights. And that will do it for us here tonight. I'm Dylan Jones. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. We'll see you later.